Hey! Do you want to know how to set up 3 turrets on a medium battery and on the cheap with 4 solar panels as a solo, duo, or even just a small group? Do you want to know how to set up a turret port where it's got the doors that open and shut when the turret's on or off, or even when it triggers a state of no ammo or low ammo? Do you want to know how to trigger a turret that runs on a timer, more importantly? Or even how to turn turrets on and off to load, unload, and also verify? Well, look no further, we got you covered. These are realistic scenarios that you can use today, not only on Rust Console Edition, but also on the PC version. Now, I think power is underutilized across the board. I don't think PC players use it enough. It's definitely worth your while. It can do amazing things. It's just as creative as building is in this game. And for a lot of people, it's very complex at first, and that's 100% like natural. It's okay. It takes some time, just like Rust building took time. But it is worth it. Once you learned Rust building and all the nuances and gotchas, you are now a more proficient builder, and you can do amazing things inside of building or Rust building in general, right? I think electricity is no different. So at any time as I'm going through this, I'll try to explain this as best I can, but if things are a bit too deep or a bit too heady, that's okay. I've got the Rust Power Basics video. I'll go ahead and link that now in the upper right-hand corner if you want to go check that out. But that's okay if you want to keep watching, because I'll throw it up on the end screen as well when we're done with this. This will cover the basics, all the different items, the generators, the collections, and even some very useful circuits at the end. It should help out a lot. Okay. So we're going to run through like why this works, and hopefully you guys will have an understanding of this so you guys can apply this to your base builds today. Now, Rust Console Edition has this on PTB, but this will be, it's also known as testing, but this will be on main branch soon enough, and it's active on PC as well. So this applies to everybody. So we do have different colored wires. Just know on our version on console, we only have 4 colors. If you hold the reload button, you can set it up, but it's to really help people see what is doing what. Okay, so our power source here is going to be solar panels. I'm a big fan of that. You can use a quad here. So you have 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. We have them set into root combiners. Depending on the type of day it is, you can get a maximum of, what is that, 80? That comes out of here, but it's going to be variable throughout the day. And then it goes into this medium battery here using root combiners itself. And just remember, using solar panels, you want to start with those because nothing says come and raid me like these giant wind turbines on top of your base, especially if you're a solo. So I strongly advise that you stay away from those when you can. And these are definitely more stealthy would be, I guess, a word for it. Okay, so let's go through the circuit here. So during the day, you're going to have all the way up to, what is it, 80 units of power. The maximum power that you can put into this before it's wasted is not 2 times, but 4 times its maximum output. So that would be 200. So we don't run the risk of going over. So that's good. And when the circuit's currently running, which is it all the way on? Let me double check here. Are they always here? Let's check what the power output is right now. The pull on this battery right now for all 3 of these is 41 units of power. And just as like a nice measurement, you can put 4 turrets on a medium battery. It's a bit tight. Most of the time you'll see 3, and if you keep it real tight, you can also put 9 turrets on a large battery, as the maximum output is 100. Okay, so let's run through this real quick. So the first turret port, or actually let's go through here and why we do it like this. So, okay, so the output is 50. It's going here to this switch. I tell everybody, and if you watch all videos, you already know, always put a switch as your output because it stops any leakage. So if you don't want anything else to run or it doesn't need to run, you can shut this off, and see how our active usage is now 0, which means anything that's coming in on the power side is accumulating in the storage. Remember, power is a resource. It's no different than stone, metal fragments, bullets, or even sulfur, and you want to collect it, and it's on a timer. So as soon as you've got anything to collect power, put it in there and start charging a battery. You can even take a battery that's fully charged, pick it up, and put it in a box and place a new one up. Yes, you can store power that way as well. It's awesome. And yes, you can do this all on console. Okay, so I always put things into a switch. Almost all objects are going to use at least 1 unit of power or more. So when this is active, this switch will use 1. And this splitter will also use 1. So right away, just to get this signal to be controlled and even split it, we're going to be using 2 units of power off the rip. Now, the way a splitter works is it will take the power, and if there's 3 connections, it'll split this as evenly as possible with the input, which in this case is, I think, 49. It'll try to split it evenly across 3 nodes because that's what's connected. And we have 16 units of power for each, green, blue, and yellow. And 16 units of power should be enough to A, run the turret and any extra pieces that we need, as a turret requires minimum 10 units of power to run. And if you're going to run anything else beyond that, like no ammo, low ammo, or a has target, you need a unit of power for each of those if you want to use those. And there are different states that you can actually trigger on those, which are quite useful, but we'll go into that kind of stuff in a later video. But anyways, okay, so as this hits the splitter, we've got 3 different cables. We'll run to our first example, which is yellow. So we have 16 units of power that runs down here. And, okay, so to kind of pause that for a second, and you've probably heard me say this before, but it's definitely worth mentioning again. Always put a switch by your turrets, because you're going to need to shut them on and off to load them and also to authorize. So it's a good idea to either have a cluster. So if you've got like 3 in a wall, maybe have a switch for all 3. But it's usually good to have them individual because you got more granular control. And remember, our turrets are no longer just plain turrets. You have to stick weapons inside of them, and you can customize them as well. So it's super important to make sure that when these are off, that people can't just come up and slap these, because they can take your ammo and your weapon and, you know, destroy your turret, which is expensive. By the way, my favorite combination in a turret right now is a python. You wouldn't think it's a face melter. I'm telling you it is. Yeah, pythons are absolutely devastating to players. Okay, so back to our power usage here. It hits the splitter. First it goes to the switch, goes to the splitter. We have 16 units of power coming down this yellow line, hitting our switch. And when this is on, it uses 1 more unit of power going to a branch. Now this branch is special because, remember, the left side of the branch is priority. So we only have 2 units of power coming off the left side. And then the remainder of the power, in our case, is going to be, what do we have, 16? If we go here, this uses 1, so we're down to 15. And so now it goes into the branch, and it's going to subtract 2, which means 13 units of power, or 12 units of power, are going to come off here to the side. Can't do math. And these 2 units of power are going to go up to these door controllers on the rim here. And door controllers are beautiful because you can actually, they have a pass-through. So when I pass 2 units of power up here across the yellow line, it hits the door controller, using 1 unit of power, and then passing the last unit of power over to the other door controller itself. And that's what opens and shuts these doors. Now, door controllers are sweet because when they lose power, they shut. And you can still open and close doors even if the state is open. So no matter what, if something gets destroyed or it's underpowered, the door is shut by default, which is absolutely the state or the behavior that you do want. Okay, so real quick, as a door controller, if you guys don't know, if you want to control something that's with a door controller, typically you want to put it close to the door or on the frame, and sometimes you have to play with it. You have to have a code lock on there, whether it's wood or metal, and you have to have the door controller and make sure it's clear, there's no green or red, and then you have to unlock the code lock or the wooden lock, go up here, and if it's close enough to the door, you're going to hit the action button, and you'll know it's paired when it's green. Then when you're done, the most important thing to do is to go back to your lock and lock it. Now that's paired up. Now if something breaks here or you move this, you're going to have to resync it again, just so you know. And that's how the door controllers work. And then when you have a unit of power in here, it activates the door controller itself. And actually, if we stand over here, pressure plates work in the same fashion. Boop. See how the door opens and it shuts. It's like that. So because we have those there, and it's set to this cluster, when this switch is on, it's going to activate everything that's controlled by this branch. The left-hand side is the door controller, which is the 2 units of power. That's all we need. The right-hand side is the remainder, which is 12 units of power, which is more than enough to run a turret with some signals. And so that's why this side works the way it does. Now, on to the next example here, which is the blue line that comes out here. And we don't have a door controller on this, more to simplify everything. Goes into a branch again, and this is controlled by a timer. So on the left-hand side, we only have 2 units of power because really we need 1, but the lowest amount you can set is 2. It goes off here to the blue color and into the side of the, what is this, a timer? I had to think about the name of it. And what this does is, when this is powered, this blue line will set and activate and run this for the set amount of time. And in this case, it's 12 seconds. And if you're like, hey, my timer, I can't set it by holding the action button, make sure there's power going into the bottom first, then you can hold the action button, then you can set the timer. And so what happens is, when this blue line comes over here, it trips this and says, okay, you can run this now, and the timer's going to run for 12 seconds, which means it takes this light blue power, And when that condition is met, which means it is triggered by the blue line, it throws this 13 units of power through the timer itself for the X amount of time, and in our time it's going to be 12 seconds. So it's going to take the remainder of power, which is 13, and throw it up for 12 seconds. So what's crazy with this is you can hit it here, and it's going to run for 12 seconds. And remember, turrets take about 3 seconds to power on, too, so remember that. And this is good for if you've got something like an HBF sensor that you need to activate, or a laser. These are good because you don't want people to just trip it on and off, because the turret will go into a state of not usable because it'll be too busy powering up that it can't actually shoot yet, because it takes about 3 seconds. It's more like 2.6 seconds, but still. And the way this works is yes, you can hit the timer here, and I just put it on 12 seconds because that's easier. But if I turn off main power and turn it back on, you'll see that it does trip. See, this is active here. Green means go. You can see the timer ticking down, and you would have this set for like 5 minutes or more. And that way, if somebody activates it, they have a hard time, draining or kiting the turret in such a way where they're turning it on and off. So it's active when it's needed, and then it's off when it's not. Because remember, power is a resource, and the longer this is on, the more drain you have on your battery itself. Beautiful, isn't it? Wonderful. So you can set these up in banks. You can have this whole idea, look at it as a module, and you can set up even more turrets. Usually, like I said in the beginning, 3 turrets is good if you have some logic behind it here. 4 turrets if you want to be super efficient. The only reason why I really, well, the main reason, the only reason I set these up with solar panels and the medium battery is because that's what's accessible to most players, solos, small groups, duos. Because you can buy this at the bandit camp, and also you can buy these at the outpost, and they're reasonable. And you know, even to craft like the windmills is expensive. Heck, to buy these it's 500 scrap, and not to mention it's like I said earlier, it's just like raid me, so you don't want to do it. So there you go. That's how to set up 3 turrets on the cheap on a medium battery with solar panels. I hope you find this useful. And again, if any of this was a bit too heady, you can always go over to the Power Basics. I'll throw it up on the end screen now. And again, don't forget to drop a like and a subscribe. It helps out tremendously. It helps tell Aunt Susan that you want to watch stuff like this, because we make a lot of swears, so it's very, very helpful and useful to us. So we appreciate you, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Love you. Bye.